All right, it's John Wood here, the founder of Rageheart. I'm here with the Rageheart podcast with Mishell Latour. I got that right, right?
Yes, perfect.
I was just practicing. And can I say this French name? So I'm here with Michelle. We met on Instagram. She's a transformational coach, and she found me through, if you've been following me through Raychat, you would have seen I've been posting on Instagram. It's a new thing. I used to hate social media for years. I'm like, let's just give it a try. And so I've been posting. Michelle found one of my posts where I went on a bit of a rant about how, because I'm on Instagram scrolling through and people are talking about how there's this. I did this healing thing, and 30 days later, I'd fixed all my problems and I made six figures and everything was fixed. And there's just this portrayal that it's all very easy and very quick. And in my experience, it's not really like that at all. You can have these big moments, these big releases, a boulder, like a boulder size thing comes up and out, but it is a lot of subtle long-term work. And so I made this post how getting healed quick is just like get rich quick. It's bullshit, basically. Michelle found it, liked it, and we started a conversation, and that led to us talking about doing a podcast. And here we are. So,
Here we are.
wow, what's going on?
Everything is pretty good. So kind of like what resonated the most for me was one of my values is authenticity. One of my
Mhm.
values is honesty. So I'd rather align or like kind of like start a friendship or like any collaboration with somebody that aligns with truth. Because like you said too, like is a marketing technique that people use, like you want to get here to here now. But I kind of see like we can make that happen. You can heal, you can make this amount of money, but it's going to be a long-term game, not a short-term instant gratification. Like that should be like a red flag for everybody. Like that's just ego.
Mhm.
So just like really realizing when it came to your post, like, okay, I gotta message this person. I want to know what he's about. And we clicked, which was amazing. I like to like I used to, like you said, somatic healing. I like to use my senses when it comes to people. If I get a good feeling, then to me it's like this is for you to go, take a chance here. Um, but how my story kind of started was 2 years ago. It was pretty much I was at a very low place in my life. um, so a little backstory from that. I came from Peru at the age of 8.
Oh, you're
So
Peruvian originally.
yeah, I grew up in
Oh,
Arequipa.
oh, no way. My sister's in Arequipa right now. We live together. She's in Arequipa at the moment. I was
What?
wondering, okay, you're from Peru. Man, that's a
Yes.
small world right there. Okay, very cool.
So I grew up in Peru until I was 8 years old. I was born in Arequipa with my mom and dad and my sister. And then we came here to the US for the American dream life. So we lived here in the US, and then we started, the to have a business. So we had to start up, little by little, work really, really hard. Now, because of the cultural and the beliefs that it's in Peru, like very old generational beliefs, the life here, as in the American people, like think of more open and more freeing and freedom. So I kind of was like, well, I kind of want this life, right? And I got married and I had kids. But then I started to realize that my relationship was just like my parents. And I was getting advice from my parents. And, it's like I didn't know any better. I just knew that my parents were here to help me and guide me. But at the time, I had no idea what mental illness was. I just thought as a little girl, and even as I got older, why am I different? I don't fit in. And why can I see things that other people can't see? Just little things like that. And I felt like there was something wrong with me because I had this need for revenge. Like whenever somebody would hurt me, I would like see red, and I'm like, I'm here to destroy you. But then there was a part of me like, I'm a good person. But I didn't understand why this was happening. So my marriage was crumbling and I needed to fix it. I needed to go in to save this marriage. So I started doing some therapy. And that's when the first thing that came to my mind was boundaries that she was talking to me about. And I was like, there is such thing as saying no to people. There is such thing as boundaries. I was like, it was a whole new world for me from where I was coming from because I grew up that every marriage has problems, that these problems were normal, like infidelities and lies, physical abuse, emotional abuse, like all of this was normal. So
Mm.
as I started to gain more self-awareness of myself and the things that were happening in my life, I started to make changes, very drastic changes. And I started to tell my parents, like, well, I don't want to have a relationship with you anymore. Um, it's not healthy for me. I'm trying to change my life. They didn't like that. I was
You told your
cutting,
parents this.
yes,
You cut your parents off, or
yes, I did. At the time, I cut them off because it was, I was dealing with their relationship. So I'm the oldest of four. So I was the mediator of their relationship problems. And I couldn't deal with that and also my relationship problem. So I was like, I need to work on me. So at the time, I had cut them off and I was like, I need time and space to work on myself. And then we can talk about it. They didn't like that. They was like, that's disrespectful. Like, I'm your
Mhm.
parent. At the time, I lost my job as well because I was working for my dad. So it was like, well, now what are we going to do? So then the relationship was still crumbling down, still infidelities. Then I went on this rampage of like, it was like the universe kind of choosing me because I think this kind of ties into the awakening thing that people talk about now. I was in a search for peace. I wanted peace. So when you want peace, the universe, God, whatever, will give you that at the cost of your entire life. So my life was wiped away, like no job, no family, nothing. And I chose it too because I was like, I didn't want those people around anymore. They didn't align with what I was believing or what I wanted to believe, which was like, you don't understand me. I want peace. So everything was gone. I cut friends. I was literally alone in my little condo with my two kids, two dogs at the time, and a whole entire house full of bills. And my partner was obviously like, we had, because of the physical abuse, he was pretty much taken into custody. And there was a, for like, what's it called? That restriction where you can't see the person.
Restraining order.
Yeah, a restraining order. So because of that, we had that in place, and I was just there to take care of the babies and two dogs. And in that midst of that, I was still working with a therapist. But I kid you not, I was just sitting there going and venting about what was happening. It felt great at the time, but nothing was changing. And I was like, it's not working. Like, this is not working. So then I fell into looking at all of these videos on TikTok of healing. And then I fell to this coach that was like, was teaching like somatics, was teaching of body, breath work. And I was like, well, let me give this a try. Because I mean, at the time, because I was in so much suffering, I I was desperate. I was desperate. I didn't have money, so I started selling belongings and things to invest in courses. Um, but prior to that, I didn't commit to that program because I never would finish what I would start. So then I would go into like mindset work, manifestation, um, all these other things that was going to heal me, read all the books, things that were quickly fixes. I was just like, I want the easy way out because I believed that I was broken and I needed fixing. So then I went into this long period of intellectualizing my trauma. I knew all my patterns. I knew where it came from. I knew that I could just think my way out of it. And I didn't realize that I was doing this as a child. And it was a coping way of like, let me just think my way out of my feelings and just deal with them, like just think my way out of it and just think of love and light, positive thoughts only.
Mhm.
And then I was realizing as a parent, because my kids became my biggest teachers, my mirrors, that I started having triggers, as in like my house needed to be clean all the time. When my kids would come and give me love, I'm like, oh, like get away from me. But I didn't really want to do that. It was an automatic thing. And my first book that really helped me understand a lot of things was Western Mind and Eastern Body. And then I fell into this deep rabbit hole of somatics. And I was just like, we gotta do this work, Michelle. Like, you can't escape it. You can't just fix it and you'll be good and you'll be healed. So I realized that when it came to the nervous system, a lot of people, I would see workshops that people do, like breath works and stuff like that. But when I started to realize, if the body, right, we're dealing with a traumatized body, why would you want to do something all at once? Like, wouldn't that traumatize the body more? Right. And I started to like kind of use logic behind the things that I was kind of going by, because a lot of people promise all these marketing things like, come to my 3 week workshop and you're gonna heal your mother womb and your father womb and you're gonna release your traumas. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, we're gonna do it. But they don't realize that, or maybe the people don't have that knowledge of the nervous system, that you can really traumatize that person much more, because you're not meant to feel all of it. Like, imagine 30, 40 something years of trauma, feeling it in 3 days period. It doesn't work that way. Like, your body's seeking safety, and it's like little micro actions of feeling those sensations. Otherwise, it goes into shutdown again. So you have to undo that. Like, you have to heal that traumatized part again, from on top of the trauma that you already have. So it was a period of trial and error for me, which I thank God, the universe, for everything. But that's when I started to promote, like, let me dive into it. Let me get my certifications. Let me first heal me before I can help anybody, because I would be doing a service to them. I would be lying to them if I was just telling them it's all about subconscious programming, it's all about mindset, it's all about all of these other things, all these spiritual teachings, like meditation, for example. I fell into meditating every single day. But why was I still reacting? Why was I still yelling? Why was I still doing all these things? I was still living in survival. And it was because of my body. I was just bypassing things. Then I fell into the loop of tools. Let me just breathing. Let me breathe my way through it. I feel like I'm being this mature adult now, and I'm gonna breathe through it, and I'm just gonna be great. And I was just like, Michelle, how foolish of you. Because you're, it's like you're masking by you. Sometimes good things that may appear good can be used incorrectly, which that's what happened with me. And I was still not sitting with it. And there's this thing that people say, like, sit with the pain, but they don't know what that looks like. And that's through somatic experiencing, right? Just sitting with it and feeling, using your senses, connecting with your body, and teaching your body in the present moment to be safe in the now, but not telling yourself that you're safe, showing your body that it's safe. And that's what somatic is all about, is showing your body in the present moment that you are safe. And that's what majority of people, I don't think that they dive into this rabbit hole much or do the work. Or when it comes to healing, is a huge trend now of healing, but nobody ever catches the right person with the right intentions to really what it looks like to heal the nervous system, because it's painful. And a lot of people don't want to feel pain. uh, it's really, really painful, because for me, I'm the first person that's doing this in my family. I'm healing like my grandma, my mom, like generational trauma. That it's like you're feeling for those people as well. So it's not easy, but it's a very rewarding experience, because it's a long life journey that we're here to learn. We're here to help other generations, but that's why, like, I was so compelled by your message, because I was like, this is right up my alley. I have so much wisdom from my own mistakes that I've made. But let's slap a little truth in some people right now, so they
Mhm.
can realize, like, you really want to change your life, then you're going to invest, and you really have to do the deep inner work and find the people that really are speaking facts. And I don't know if you've seen this, but like how Instagram or sometimes TikTok promotes videos. I feel like the people that speak truth, that speak things that are like real, they don't push the content out for in a reason, and they push the content that is like easy. Here you go, like, and I'm like, well, this is unfair, you know? This is unfair. Like, why do they promote the easy stuff? But I get it, you know?
Probably because people who want easy stuff most people want easy stuff, so they're watching easy stuff. They can stay on the platform and watch more videos. He wants to hear that, oh, this is really hard. It's painful. Most people quit. It's not for the faint of heart. This is really hard. Blah, blah. They're like, oh, well, next, where's the fucking entertaining shit? I don't want to listen to this negative dude. So I get it too. But I mean, this is like the whole problem in like the media right now too, where it's like truth is like, where is the truth? It's all about who has the most sensational, the most ridiculous, the most insane thing. It's whatever gets the most attention. It's not whatever is the most true, which is the world we live in, unfortunately.
When it comes to truth, what you said earlier, a lot of people think that like my truth and my truth, but I always tell people and my clients is like, you came here to follow your own truth. And I think you will only know truth when you're connected with yourself and your heart. What is
Mm.
genuine? What sounds right for me? Not many people can really like listen to somebody and say like, is that what I believe in? Is that resonate with me? We kind of like get little like sheeps, we follow the crowd. And I'm like, I rather stay in my own lane and I'm happy here. I know what I
Mm.
want, I know what I stand for. But yeah, I agree. It is very uncomfortable. So I feel like it kind of correlates to like self-love, right? People say self-love is discipline. But when you look at discipline, it's really embracing discomfort. And healing is the most it's like you have to do the opposite of what the ego is telling you to do. And there's a very very small gap between ego and you reacting, that if you get really really good at catching yourself in that moment, you're good, like you're good to go in that moment. But not many people have it's creating that muscle, right, of like really like, let me catch myself. And let's and it's all about when it comes to healing, it's all about consistency. And it really depends how much you want it. For me, we all get to that point of like, I'm tired of suffering. I'm tired. It's a choice. It's a choice, and it's a commitment to say, I'm going to do this hard work so I can have a different life, because my whole reality is the way that it is because of what's happening within me. But what I think I ran another video of you that you were like, I you had it all, right? You had it all. I had all this great things, but then I don't know, I couldn't remember what the video was about, but I was like, I resonate with this because I thought I had it all. Like I had a German Shepherd and a Golden Retriever and the American Dream Little Picket Fence house and the marriage. I had my parents' support, money, but none of these things are making me happy. And I burned it all to the ground, and people like shame me for like, how dare you do that? But I'm like, you don't get it. Like none of these things are what we seek. What we seek was always within us. And when you realize that, then these material attachments to people and things, they lose like the sense of like, I don't know, it's like it's a whole new world that I get to experience now. Now that I'm back home here to visiting my family, I'm being asked to mend. And like I see my dad not as like judgment, separation, but I'm like, thank you, because I had to go through this to be where I am today. And I see the inner child in my dad. However, I can still have boundaries, but it's like, I don't judge you, I still love you, I'm still here, I'm holding space for you to feel your emotions. And still have that limit to like, okay, I can only do this for this much, and I hope you respect that. But it's a lot of growth. And I think loneliness does that too. Like that time of solitude, like being in Kansas, I had nobody. It kind of reminded me of Peru, because in Peru, I remember I loved seeing the cows and I loved being in nature. I have a very humble upbringing. Not, I didn't really have much growing up as a little girl. So I was called to go to Kansas and have the little Dorothy, the Dorothy type of storyline, looking for going back home. And
Mm.
it was beautiful. It was in loneliness that I really found nature very healing. You have a technique that I was fascinated by. I want to know, like, I want to know more about it. but I literally was doing it not because somebody taught it to me, but I was just like, I don't know, like I have this intuitive feeling of like I'm gonna do what feels right for me. And as a little girl, I needed nurturance, I needed physical affection. And I found safety and physical affection within myself, but in nature. And it's like a this technique that you have where you're like seeing like, and again, it was a somatic experience, right? But I kind of want to know, where did you learn that? How did that kind of play out? Like, tell me more about it.
That take the technique where it's like look around, feel the ground, notice your breath, that type of thing.
The different focuses. Yeah, you focus.
Yeah. I mean, I learned it from a lady named Irene Lyon. She's a somatic, somatic experiencing practitioner, Feldenkrais, a whole bunch of stuff. I learned it from her. I took a few of her courses and was like, that right there is, and then now what I teach to people is that's the core of it. Like the to me, that's the foundation of it all. Can you feel the ground? It's really like, can you like be connected to your environment while also being connected to your physical sensations? I don't know what it is about that, but there's something about that way of being with the self that allows things to move. I don't know what it is. I don't know if anyone's done enough research on it or if anyone knows how to explain it, but I can feel it when I do it. And then you can mix in all kinds of things. You talk about like nurturing or like, like a self hug or like a self holds or even just touching your chest, your stomach, like whatever. But combining that, like it's combining the sensations with, because that's all the ground is just a physical sensation in your feet, pair that with the environment. So there's like an infinite variety of ways to play with it. But to me, that has been the crux, the foundation of the entire journey.
Do you find it? Because with my clients, depending on where they're at in their journey, like for me, I can focus on different, like I can focus on the sensations in my feet while focusing on how my breathing without changing my breathing and the environment, but it's different types of focuses at the same time.
Mhm.
Not many people can do that at the same time in the beginning, especially if they're coming from therapy and they're kind of like always in that sympathetic part, like survival is like I can't. So I kind of just go with like, okay, let's just work on focusing on one aspect and then gradually building up to it. But it's kind of like there's this thing that majority of people like, yeah, but I want to be like you. I want to get to that point like you. But I'm like, we don't compare the journeys here. We are in our own lane. We do it slowly. But I think there's this human nature to want things like, I don't want to feel discomfort. I want it right away, right now. And this
Mhm.
ego, right? Ego wants instant gratification. But it's like once you start doing one thing consistently, then like it's like you master your craft as in like self. And I love that because it is the core when you really connect with nature, when you really connect with yourself at the same time. How do you deal with that when it comes to sensory cues that like trigger the nervous system? Like when it
You mean
comes,
like when someone can only do one thing at a time, or?
for example, I have a client right now and he's a veteran. So because of war, like he can't sleep at night. Like he's like, when when I'm like awake, I know that I'm safe, but it's at nighttime. It's at nighttime that it could be something. And I literally like, okay, so how do you sleep? Because it will tell you a lot about somebody how they sleep. He's like, I always sleep on this side of the bed facing the door. And I'm like, "Well, that tells me everything." But it just shows like everything that you do has a reason for it, but unconsciously why you're doing it. And it's because you're always thinking that some scary stuff is gonna come out that door and it's come and get you. And even the way that you're sleeping, your position, right? If you were having a pillow and you love to cuddle with that's another way that you can tell the person is in survival. Like you're seeking that connection, you're seeking the safety, the nurture. And so even when he hears like slight noises at nighttime, he goes into like panic, like this is scary. And it's like, you know that there's nothing out there. It's just your body's reacting to the trauma that you have experienced in the past. And it could even be a childhood. Like it can go as far as childhood. Um,
Mhm.
but how do you like deal with that with your clients? Like
I mean, it's tricky. It's because everyone's so different. And sometimes it's like you don't even talk about necessarily what the specific trauma is, even though a lot of the time it doesn't even really matter. It's just the energetics of it. Um, I mean, if someone asked me that, if I had a client who came and asked me that and told me that, I'd be like, look, man, like, there's no way for me to tell you how long it's going to take, how hard this is going to be, or what's going to come up, what has to unfold for that to be resolved. But it starts with just the things we're talking about. Like, starts with safety. Like you've said a lot of things that it's the same shit I teach to people where it's like, it's not about telling yourself that you're safe. You have to feel it. So you have to learn how your system finds and sees safety. And by doing these things repetitively over time, little drops, not all of it, the system gradually figures it out. I've seen it with myself. Like there's still things in me that I'm like, that is still just like, okay, it's like my system's stuck. Okay, trying different things. It's like a dance. Like I don't have, and I've even seen with my teachers, like one of my teachers, she was talking about waking up in the middle of the night with her heart racing. And she's like, she's been doing this for 20 years. She's like, I didn't know what it was. I had to keep like playing with it. I'd wake up and I'd try this and I'd try that. Like it was sort of like yeah, playing around with it to kind of see. That's the challenging thing with it is there's not like hey, if you follow this 8-step process, you're going
I
to be
love
falling
that.
asleep and sleeping throughout the night.
I love what you're saying. I always tell people, because I'm sure you get this in your DMs. So, how do I do it? Tell me the steps. How do I heal? And it's like, no matter what I tell you, no matter if I give you this tool, your relationship with your body is going to be extremely different than the relationship with mine. There is no specific method. There is no specific way. This is why working with somebody one on one is extremely transformative. And when it comes to my clients, I'm like, I will work with you for a minimum, at least a minimum of 6 months. Because I'm not here to tell you like this is going to be easy, you're going to be healed quickly. Is about like a long-term commitment to this journey, especially when it comes to somatics, like regulating the nervous system. That is like you can't just go from operating a certain way to like in a year or two. Like I still work through things every single day and I share with people authentically, like I'm still struggling, but I know what to do and I play around with it. Like, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And then little by little, I start getting better and better at it. But I don't know, when you had said a video that you kind of have like OCD. And
Mm.
I do too, because I grew up with a mom that like constantly like hated things. Like if things were not done a specific way, it was screaming and yelling or spanking. So now I operate on like everything needs to be a specific way. And I'll check again and again and again until it's that way. And it's exhausting. So I'm just like, sometimes, so I would check like my kids' rooms multiple times to see if they were clean. So I noticed like my pattern. Okay, I go in there 4 times. Let me go one day less. So I'm just gonna check 3 times, and then the last time I'm gonna feel. I'm gonna feel not having to check 4 times. And then just a little, like people don't realize those little things accumulate over time. It's like a compound effect, right? And it's like, wow, I came a long way because it took patience. I was like, little by little, we're gonna get better and better. And as a mom, I think I get to like advocate for that because our children literally are the biggest mirrors ever. So I always take accountability, like when I react in a certain way, because my journey hasn't been linear. It's been like, this is why it's called Awaken Your Resilience, my business, because I'm like, it took fucking resilience to get here. I failed and I tried again. I failed, tried again, 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 again. And, when it comes to my kids, I was like, mommy's not angry at you. Mommy's angry at herself. And she is feeling a lot of sensations right now. And in my tummy, let's breathe. Or, mommy, you want to shake our bodies? Let's shake our bodies. Or, mommy, you're angry? And like, let's push the wall. And I'm like, ah. Or we can sit here and feel, mommy. We can feel. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, I gave him permission to never see me above him, like a teamwork. And it's like, you get to call me out. on my stuff. You get to tell me like, hey, I don't like to be spoken to this way, or can you try again? So that made me feel a lot better because like I would beat myself up every time I would mess up, not realizing that it's like an automatic response. But a huge thing is the accountability, right? Like, oh, like I messed up. Let me try again tomorrow. Let me be mindful of it. Um, I love your approach of no journaling and no meditation. And that when I saw that on the caption, I was like, oh, okay, like this is interesting. Because a lot of people, a lot of spiritual people follow me in my platform, and they're like, whenever I have anxiety, I'm gonna meditate. Or I meditate every day. And I hate this term. I'm enlightened. And this is not to shame anything or anybody, but a lot of narcissistic people fall into spirituality and they try to claim that they're enlightened. So I always think like if you're enlightened, what's the point of you being here? Because we're all here to learn lessons. Like there is no such thing as I am the it of anything. So when it comes to like meditation, I used to do that too. And I realized like it's just for awakening to like ascending to different parts, more like a spiritual thing rather than like healing. Um, like I see it more of like whenever I'm trying to connect with more clients and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna feel like my higher self is attracting more clients wherever they're at, wherever my soul is meant to heal, or just like sitting and getting guidance whenever I have a big decision to make. I always like it takes me 30 minutes of just meditating of finding that answer and letting it click, and I'm okay, good. But it's never to like as before, like to mask whenever I would feel anxious. Let me do a breath work that is going to help me. In the beginning it could be helpful, but depending on it and not feeling it, that's just you're using those things, even somatic tools too. Um, you using the tools all the time, you're just masking and you're not really healing the parts of you that need healing. So I think like that too, that message that you had of no journaling and no meditation, that caught my eye. I was like, okay, let me hear that. Like I was never a fan of journaling. Um, I don't know. I feel like the hyperactivity. I was diagnosed with ADHD at one point, so I was like, oh, I hate that. I hate being told this is who I am. I hate being told that this defines me. I was just this way because of the environment that I was in. So I think I don't know if you read or Gabor Mate, his
Uh-huh.
teachings. A lot of people criticize him for a lot of things, but I love his approach to things sometimes. And he talked about the myth of being normal and a lot of the things that in the Western world, like they give us like diagnosis, people attach to them, especially therapists too. They're like, well, I have ADHD and this is how, but it's like that's not you though. That's not why would you just want to like accept that instead of healing? I feel like people use those titles to mask and not do that somatic, not
Mhm.
heal their nervous system because then you're just bypassing by identifying with the title. What is your take on that?
I have ADD. I've never been diagnosed with anything, but I definitely have those tendencies for sure. I think probably part of it's just like our understanding, humanity's understanding of this stuff is still developing. So, with the old model, it's like, okay, this is just who you are. You have this, it's a function of your brain. You've got a few brain cells missing or they're not arranged correctly like that. So then it's static. You can't change that. And then, I haven't read too much Gabor Mate, but my understanding of like 80 through a nervous system lens is that ADHD is basically you're stuck in survival mode, which basically means your nervous system always thinks there's a sense of there's danger nearby. So it's going to be scanning in some respect, whether it's worrying about stuff, which to me is a form of scanning or actually looking around. Because it's kind of like if you're in the forest somewhere and there was a bear, you'd be busy trying to get away from the bear or looking around to see if the bear was there or, trying to keep track of it, trying to make sure you don't die. You're not going to be able to sit down and focus on a project. And I think that that's all ADHD is to me now, but that's with this newfound, I guess, understanding. And, it's still so new, like even like meditation's been around for thousands of years. Like the medical system or the modern thing, I don't know, a couple hundred years maybe. Whereas this like somatic way of working, this way of understanding survival physiology and how that leads to all these different symptoms like ADHD is so new. So I think it's probably a bit of that where there's probably some people, yeah, who like there's the other side to this nervous system work where I think people you try and tell people about, I've told friends, and there's so much resistance sometimes, is if there's something in them, I wonder, that unconsciously, instinctually knows that this is gonna dig up some shit for them. And they don't want to go there. And that's where some of the resistance comes from. So I think there can be a bit of that, but I think part of it too is just we're still learning, you know? Some people don't even the stuff we're talking about, a lot of people don't even know about this stuff. I've got family members. I'm like, you got to check this out. It's so good. And they're like, no, I don't need that. I'm not traumatized. And I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Well,
So
I've gotten so much more receptivity from the people here, like, wow, Michelle, like you're so mature. And I'm like, it has like fall like it has taken me to like fall really deep into my hole to get here. But there's a huge rise when it comes to somatic healing. The only thing that I feel like majority of things really happen that way is because there's a rise in it, there's a demand for it because the people are realizing that talking therapy is not working, meditation and energy healing is not working. All these little things are not working. So now people are going to what? Gravitate to somatic healing, which more people are going to what? Well, I'm going to learn and I'm going to do this. But then people turn that around into something I would call it bad, right? And they use the tools to still avoid feeling. So
yep.
that I've seen so many people, even on TikTok, that are certified with somatic healing practitioners, and I see their content, I get the vibe, and I'm just like, you're still using tools, like the EFT tapping, for example. Let's do some tapping when I'm feeling anxious. And I'm like, it's good, but then using that all the time, it's not good. Why don't you just sit with it? Just sense and feel it. Because there's been so many times where, especially when I feel really anxious, that I just sit with it and I'm just sensing the feeling of what it feels like, also being grounded, feeling the ground, and then also experiencing what's in front of me. And it takes a level of surrender that my body starts to twitch
Mm.
and reenact how that little girl felt in that moment. And it's like it's a whole body surrendering and it's opening up to the experience. And it's a willingness that the person does, but you can't just like consciously choose it. It's just surrendering to the body and then just letting that energy to just do its thing and just doing that. But why can't people do that is because your body is always like this. I must protect me. We're not going to feel pain. So it's beautiful when that started to happen for me. I was like, oh, this is cool, but it's also painful. Holding space for that little child, I literally pour so much compassion and empathy for that little kid. I'm like, oh my god, it's okay. We're gonna feel this together.
I heard a really good I don't even it's not really even a technique. I've been listening to this podcast recently called The Art of Accomplishment. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's amazing. If you like this, like what we're talking about, it's got to be the best podcast I've found in the last in years. I've been binging it, and they talk about all the same stuff. More in the context, there's a bit of like a business element to it. The name is a total doesn't really, it's a total. It's a worse name. It sounds like it's a success base. Let's rah rah and Tony Robbins it up. It's not like that at all. It's about feeling and emotions and a lot of what we're talking about. But he had this really interesting way, one of the guys on there, of talking about this, like feeling. Because like you can people talk about accepting your emotions, right? So you can meditate and be like, okay, I'm just going to accept everything and I'm going to watch it. I've done that, and that has a certain like that's a step on the journey maybe. But he was like, what would it be like to savor the experience, to start to see like the anxiety, the fear, the shame, all these things that are painful or uncomfortable as like the next doorway into freedom. And so then instead of getting worried or trying to push it down when it comes up, you like it's like you party, you celebrate. That's how I interpret. I'm like, oh yeah, great, bring it on. and there's something I'll be playing with it. And it's just an attitude. But even like that's helped, like 'cause in somatics, they talk about being curious, right? Peter Levine will talk about, fear can't really exist at the same time as curiosity. So if you're curious about the anxiety, it can start to dissolve. It's a way of working with it. But curiosity is, I think that's better. But to savor it is like, yes, let's just enjoy this. Like it's a beautiful, tasty ice cream or steak or whatever. And it's just been a beautiful, really amazing way that for me anyway, and for some people, I guess, to orient a way to, work with what they're feeling is to delight in it and savor it and enjoy it, even if it's uncomfortable. Oh yeah, I get to feel angry. Yes.
I love what you just said. It literally just I tend to hear like sometimes certain things, and I just the first thing I heard was compassion and love, because there's times that I when you start to really heal the nervous system, you get very sensitive. And I've gone on my little live. You probably seen my little stories. I'm like, do you see that light? And energy, right? Like, it's so beautiful that I get to see that light. And I know people probably think I'm crazy delusional, but when I feel and I surrender to the body, I literally savor it. I like, I get to feel this. I get to
Mhm.
feel this anger. I get to feel this sadness. And it's like you have an appreciation for feeling. Like I get to experience what it is to be angry, what it is to feel sad, what it is to feel anxious. And when you say savor it, I see it as an intense amount of self compassion and love for yourself. That's really loving yourself,
Yeah.
where you can really savor the sensation that you're feeling. But people kind of like categorize these emotions as good or bad. And we categorize discomfort as bad, as and then if we just shifted those definitions, and that's what I call, like with my clients, somatic awareness, like the words that we use literally trigger us. So if we just change those wordings and reframe them, you wouldn't keep pouring more shame into yourself by saying, I need to, I should, by when you're going to do something new, something different. It's like your little child isn't going to show up. Your body will go into shutdown because I'm already predicting the pain that I'm going to experience by the words that I'm using when I need to do certain things, right? Like I need to do it. Um, but I'm gonna look at that podcast just because I love the word savor. Like I'm gonna savor this feeling. Like like
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
said that. It's so weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's been other things on that podcast. I mean, they tie in so beautifully. It's nothing different. You know, when you find something and it's like, oh, this is not new. This is like nothing that I haven't already heard from someone else. But just the way it's articulated it allows it to land. Like another thing was about joy and how joy is always available in everything. And there was a story here. I did an ayahuasca retreat one day here, and the maestro, the guy running it, he told a story about I think one of his teachers, another maestro he met in the jungle here in Peru, and he'd just come out of. So my friend had just come out of his I don't know, like a 2 month diet, like a hardcore, probably eating like rice and eggs for 2 months straight, drinking ayahuasca every week, like a like a really intense meditation retreat, but with ayahuasca. And he comes out, and this maestro from some tribe, some famous, I don't know, some famous maestro, and he just looks at him and he's like, everything is joy. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't get it. Like if you're in pain, is that really joyful? If it sucks. Is that really joyful? And then they said something similar on this podcast. I'm like, okay, I've heard this before, but the way it was explained. And then I'm on the bus here, in a Collectivo, a little van running down the valley, the Sacred Valley where I live here, and it's cramped and it's smelly and there's bags piled up and I'm sitting on the floor and it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, let me just try this. Can I find joy in this moment? I wasn't like in a terrible mood. I was just like, oh, like this is not that pleasant. But yeah, I guess if I really just focus on the way the bus is like, just the vibrations, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of, if I was about to die, I'd probably be like, yeah, if I could just live for another 5 minutes in exchange for getting to feel that bumps. maybe it'll be all right, looking around, seeing different people. And it was such an interesting thing. I've done it here with the wind. I like to spend time just feeling the wind in my face, all over my body. And it's become one day recently, I was doing it, and it was like, I mean, I wouldn't say orgasmic is the right word because it wasn't like that kind of intense climax of pleasure, but I'm certainly sitting there just being like, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, like if someone was listening to me, it would have sounded a bit sus, maybe, or a bit orgasmic. But there's certainly like, there's this pleasure that can come from just feeling. And then it seems like, so like anger or pain or shame, once we strip back the story of I don't like this, you shouldn't be here, I don't want to feel it. And it's just pure sensation with no filter, no story, no words attached to it. It's like it becomes quite neutral. It's just like is what it is. It's not bad. It's not even painful because that's another label. It's just like sensation. And at that point, I think it can become quite enjoyable because it's like, oh, there's nothing to be afraid of here. It's just electrical signals traveling from wherever to my brain, not even real in one sense.
I think to
Yeah.
get there, you have to embrace discomfort
Hmm.
because I've been in a period of taking bold risk and action based on my intuition, and I've been in discomfort the entire time. And if I didn't embrace discomfort for that long of time, like all of the time, I don't think I would have been able to really savor, like, really feel these sensations because I would have been deeming them as something bad and negative. And like when you say about the wind, like I would go outside cry because of like this need of like I needed to be loved and accepted, or I had an abandonment wound, right? So I would go out there and I would feel the wind like hugging me, like a hug. I'm
Hmm.
just like, oh my God, like I feel love, right? And I would
Hmm.
cry, like just feeling the wind in my face and my body. When you put your hand on like the ground and you just sit there on your feet, the warmth that it generates like from that, it's so like it's kind of like the earth saying like I got you, like you're here, we're united, we're one. And it's like I don't know, I've gone through these like this whole period of aloneness that I if to the real people in society I sound crazy because I speak with my hands. It's like the Spanish in me, and I get very passionate when I speak, and I sound probably cringy, and I get excited, but that's authentically me because that little girl's like, yes, we get to just say whatever we want. We get to say and do the things that we want to do. But I think it's beautiful. It's like you said, you're alone there, but when you when you hit a rock bottom or when you feel like certain things in your life are not beautiful, the way that society paints it as this is what's normal, beautiful, right? And you really embrace and love that, then there's a lot of gratitude. Like joy
Hmm.
comes from gratitude, from like it's always available, it's always within you, but because you're just perceiving the negative, the stories, and you're not feeling things. I think because there's so many people that talk about gratitude, joy, happiness, like with mindset work. But what if you were to do this with somatics? Just feeling, you would like close that gap much quicker, my friend. You would you wouldn't need to be doing mindset work for hours on end because people lose themselves in that. There's a missing key, and that's feeling, that's sensing, using your
Hmm.
five senses. Like imagine, like I always say, like if I'm here as a soul and having this human experience in this little suit, I have the privilege to feel these five senses. So in the midst of having nothing and losing all of these things, even money, I was just like, man, I'm so grateful. Like I get to see, and I would cry, like I get to see this sky today. It's so cringy, but like, I don't know. It's a different journey, I think, for me when you really are alone and you get to really feel all of these things right in front of you that it's just a matter of choice that I get to feel. And it's, I always say, like, man, I get to feel this. It's beautiful.
Uh-huh. It's interesting too, like it seems like, I mean, I don't know what your experience with this is, but what you're describing, this being so tuned into nature and able to appreciate it, to feel it. Um, like if I look at like the men and the women in my life, women seem to have a much easier time with that for some reason. I don't know if it's cultural. At least the women I know. There's women I know who are just like that. They're like, "Oh, look at the stars! It's amazing! Wow!" And I'm just like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." But I'm not feeling the same, from what I can tell, the same intensity of feeling, unless I've had some mushrooms or something. And it's it does happen every now and then, but not on this in the same way that, say, it does seem for women. But one thing that's happened recently is I've been playing with a lot is this is just another somatic thing of where it's like, if I'm feeling, like when kids are like, if kid's angry, he might like stomp. He's like, you know, they just act out what they're feeling. And so I spent so much of my time meditating and sitting perfectly still and serious, and even, and I've been learning in the last few months, okay, let's get up and move around. Let's like crawl around like a baby. Let's hop like a frog. Like, how does this body want to move? And then as that happens, that's been what actually gets everything flowing. And then what you're talking about is this appreciation, because then it's almost like the stuff that's in the way of the joy, as that moves, then the joy starts flowing, the gratitude starts flowing. And so it's been this really, anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but just saying that, like, to me, it seems like that intuitive way of moving and being with myself, or doing it a lot. If I'm angry, I'll stomp on the ground just like a 2-year-old. It's great. Um, and that seems to help with getting in tune, in touch with what you're talking about.
And that's literally you building a relationship with John, like, in like this body of yours. You found what worked for you. Like for me, in the Hispanic culture, like you have to dance a certain way. And I was like, but why do I dance weird? And for a long time, I kid you not, I wasn't dancing because I was like, people are gonna judge me because I don't dance that way. So in my stories, I'm like, good morning, and I'm just like moving my body in weird. It may not even go along with the rhythm, but I'm like, it makes me feel good. It makes things flow. Like you don't get the static that I'm feeling right now. Like I don't even take any type of coffee. I don't even take pre-workout. Nothing. It's just me, my joy. Like imagine just living off of that. And it's because I move my body in weird ways. What feels good for me. I just think it's like letting that little child live within you freely. And as for other people tell me, like, every time I look at your stories, every time I look at your content, you're just goofy. You're just like, you're not afraid if you're weird or anything. I'm like, no, this is why I'm like, I was like, China, you ready to do this? Like, let's ready to be weird. And you're like, yes. And I'm like, I love that because my page does not scream like us, like perfection. It doesn't scream like I need to look a certain way. It screams like I get to do what my inner child wants to do. I get to play. I get to do whatever I want. And if I say certain things or I act certain ways, like it's freeing and people resonate with that. So it's beautiful that I get to connect with you, that I get the privilege to really vibe and feel your energy
Yeah.
of just joyfulness. It's really nice.
Yeah. It's been so, like, this whole Instagram thing. Like I really have avoided social media. I didn't have any of it until 2 months ago, after a conversation with a friend. It was like, he's going on about reels and how good this stuff is. I'm like, all right, let me try it out. And it has been so much fun to just be silly and meeting people like yourself, just meeting people who I'd never otherwise meet, and having these conversations. Like, oh, this is great. This is easier than, like, I've done a lot of email stuff, but to be on, I don't know, it's just been so much fun. That has brought a lot of joy, funnily enough, to just make random videos of what's the music I'm going to put on it today. Okay, cool. Can I make it funny somehow? Like, so yeah,
You get to play.
absolutely.
Yeah, and
So
that's where it's fun.
yeah, I know we got to wrap it up. I have another thing to jump on. I'm actually chatting to my mom in Australia. She's just
Oh,
rang.
that's
Yeah, what's up?
beautiful.
She's always like, "When are you coming back to Australia? You come back soon? You could move to like the little town." She lives in like 6 hours from Sydney, in this tiny little town. She's like, "Yeah, you could move here. You get a job at the mines." I'm like, "I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna go work at the mines in this tiny little Aussie town 6 hours from Sydney. I'm not gonna fit in with these whoever's there. They're great people, but not my kind of crowd." So.
I love that. It's amazing to connect with you, and I'm excited to do more and collaborate with you because I feel like it's an alignment, and we have a lot of wisdom to share with the world, especially because the vibe is there.
Mm.
Um, and coming up with different subjects too, like that would be really cool too. Just
Yeah,
like
cool.
something fun.
Oh, sounds good. Well, before we wrap it up, do you have like if people want to learn more about you, go check you out, where are the best places for them to do that?
I would say Instagram. So follow me at Awaken Your Resilience and TikTok as well, Awaken Your Resilience. Follow me and be ready for laughter. My memes are funny.
Okay, I'll have links to that in the show notes at Rageheart if people need that. Thank you for coming on the show, Michelle.
Thank you so much.